Managing Director, Orlando Energy Resources is here. Let's welcome Dr. Ainoje Alex Dewey. You're welcome. Yes, please go ahead. Yes. Next to Dr. Dean. Thank you. Also on our panel is founding partner Argentine Capital Partners. Let's welcome Mr. Olumide Ogufowola. Thank you. Please a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much. Also on our panel is Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Akufai Capital and Equities LLC. Let's welcome Dr. Ali Gaba. You're welcome. Executive Director and Chief Financial Officer, ESO Exploration and Production Nigeria Limited is here. Let's welcome Mr. Oluwafemi Ogumbi. Round of applause. Okay, the moderation for us was supposed to be the chairman of African Energy Chamber, but he's still stuck at IP Week in London, and therefore the anchor of China's television will be stepping in. Let's welcome Mr. Olu Phillips. A round of applause, please. Thank you. All right, Olu, you know the deal. The show is yours.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I got it right this time. So let's get the conversation started. I have, to the extreme, I have Femi, I have Ali, I have Mr. Olu, Alex, and Mr. Dako here. So I'm just going to ask us to have a bit of an opening words as far as the conversation is concerned. Then we now delve deeply into the conversation of how maybe would-be investors here and would-be those who want to chin up to come into either the onshore assets and one day move into the deep waters. And I have a deep water man there from Exxon. Please tell us. Let's have the opening words this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be here with these esteemed panelists. I want to start by providing some clarity. I'll tell you what happened 2 days ago. Somebody came to our booth and said, ExxonMobil, you guys are still in Nigeria? I thought Seplat has acquired you. And I said, no, ExxonMobil is still very, very committed to Nigeria. And in the deep water space, all that happened was that we divested our JV business and we want to focus on that niche where we have the capacity, the capability, the technical know-how to deliver what the nation needs. So it ends up being a win-win. We have Seplat, an indigenous company, doing what they do best with our JV business. And then we can focus in the deep water space, which only few players can play. In the deep water space, we've got 2 key assets, and we're a partner in the third. We've got ERA, USAN, and we're a partner in Bonga. And lots of exciting things are happening. We're looking at ensuring that we solidify our base operations. We have done a lot of recent reliability and integrity work to scale up our volumes in starting with USAN and then moving on to ERA. Well work intervention programs ongoing, bringing on additional barrels. We have a $150 million campaign with regards to that. We just started a seismic campaign as well, which runs into several $1 million, trying to gather data that we can continue to grow the business. In 2026, we'll be spending $1.5 billion on infill drilling for both the USAN and potentially the ERA assets. And all of those activities are on the base operations. Then with regards to new business, in 2012, we discovered the field, and that is a world-class field of over $1 billion. We plan to grow that, and we're looking for the right concepts to grow that opportunity, mature it, and ensure that it's a win-win for Nigeria. We've got BOSI on the line. You guys have all heard about Bonga, the Bonga North, which just FID'd in December. We have a 20% stake in that business. So ExxonMobil is here to stay and is committed to Nigeria.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you very rudely, but you're dropping some numbers and I heard okay, well, doing the same to would be, you're already scaring investors because you were talking about the kind of money you want to spend in 2026. We'll find a nexus at some point, and I believe we'll find that on this conversation panel. I'm going to skip Ali, I'm going to skip Olu, I'm going to come to Alex. Quickly, the opening thoughts on this conversation. I'll come to Mr. Dapo, then I come to the finance one.
Yes, morning everyone. Pleasure to be here again. I mean, it's so interesting people have those conversations with you. Nobody asks me whether I'm living in Nigeria. You know, I always say to everybody, we die here. Right? We don't have anywhere else. We're local, indigenous. I believe the oil and gas industry has hit an inflection point, and it's been positive for everyone. I think there are three things that stand out. One, we talk about the transactions that have occurred. I think those have been a combination of dexterity from all parties, investors, regulators, and all stakeholders. Faith financing, and I say faith financing because the truth is there's a lot to be undesired in our sector, let's be honest. And as things improve, we will see a lot of the things that the other panelists will speak about on the financing side. But the third is ambition. And I think those three things have really come together to work for us. As a nation, our general production ambition, but as entities that need to survive. We must continue to grow regardless of what the obstacles are. They say challenges deter your dream, they don't stop them. So when you look at what Separate has done, ourselves, the Renaissance Group, all of us have come from marginal field players, learned through the ropes, understood how to bulletproof our companies, improve our corporate governance, build capacity to do the technical, the financing, and the corporate development work. Engaged with the IOCs on a level playing field where we not just deploy that expertise, but also measure up to their ability to do the work that they do. And on the back of that, we have embarked on loose transactions. For us, it's our second. Most people say, you know, we're the only indigenous company that has bought 2 IOCs. ConocoPhillips in 2014, and now ENI in 2024.
You need to switch roles, so you sit here and I sit there so I can order people to come. What's up?
But in truth, this was unimaginable 15 years ago. We remember the LCDs that were coupled onto assets, at least, the large block bidding rounds that were done. And we know where we've come and how far we've come. So today's conversation for me is exciting because it pulls together the efforts, the foundation, and the catalyst to get all of us growing. And that's what we need to do as a country, is continue to grow. And hopefully one day, Femi will meet you in the deep ocean. Thank you.
Then he goes to ultra deep. But sorry, talking about foundations and those who actually threw their hats in the water and started out with investments when it didn't look very clear, when the shark-infested waters were still murky. Walter Smith delved into an investment and became the first modular refinery investor. What were you thinking? Still talking about what we're talking.
No, thanks. That's a very good question. I think thinking back at the last 5 years of my refining business, if you look back at the last 5 years, from the birthing of the vision itself to making a good investment case and coming on stream within 18 to 24 months post FID, and from the first barrel of crude that we processed at that refinery in November 2020, we have, as of today, we processed about 5 million barrels of crude. We have delivered high quality product in the range of about over 700 million liters within our product slate to the northwest region of Nigeria, southwest, south, and of course we're now taking a foray into other parts of Africa. But the key thing is this: the success story we have today encapsulated in 4 buckets. It's a mix of 4 key things that work together. One, it's about belief, strategic partnerships that we had at the beginning of this when we set out to do this. Partnerships in terms of technology, adoption, technology deployment, scalable, and also finance, a very good, healthy financing mix, which include equity, private capital as part of the ownership, and private stakeholders that are invested in the business, and of course, enabling funding by the federal government in terms of NCDM coming on board, believing in us at the start of it, and of course we're grateful to NCDM for this, and of course one at board, out of all the banks, AFC, African Finance Corporation took a bet on what to Smith some 5 years ago. We have us at today, we paid up our loan in terms of the AFC, so we're in a very healthy position, and we're now a few weeks or a few months away from our phase 2 of that. So for us, it's a case of a phased approach, the right way to technology, stakeholder collaboration, ensuring feedstock. Of course, we have relationships that ensure that we have feedstock during this period, which includes Seplat's Eastern asset that provide a feedstock for the refinery. So if you look back at where I would say there was an experiment that was worked, we have proven the fact that with the right financing mix, with the right enabling fiscal incentives and government policies, indigenous operators can operate in a very successful manner. We can deploy modular refineries in Nigeria, and with the demand that we see in Africa today, provide that same kind of solution to meet energy solutions for Africa. Thank you.
I won't fall for that smooth talk. As if you woke up one morning, took some money, I'm going to do a refinery here, I'm going to do that, I'm going to get my feedstock here, I'm going to be talking to a few guys, hey guy, where are you? Give me some money, I'm going to make some investment. You're talking because you succeeded, and we're going to come to how that success was built. So let's go to the money man, and I'm going to start with you, Olu. Regulatory conditions, I choose to use that word, frameworks, corporate governance. What do you see, and what do you look at when you talk to these people, and what gives you the nudge to go the next step to finance some of these projects, especially in Nigeria, where you hear some people say businesses in Nigeria do not have very good ROT.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. I think for me, all of these things, regulatory, security, all of these things are normal challenges. You are not going to get away from it. It's a part of life. The way and manner in which it comes is, it's just going to be, it's going to change depending on what's going on in the market and globally, sociopolitically in Nigeria or outside. But I think the one thing that allows you to get from that one end to the other is your ability to be resilient. Now, your resiliency. Now, Alex talked about different things, and also that for too as well. But I think one key thing is, what is the equity? The amount of equity that gives you that buffer. And I think that is actually one of the reasons why a lot of companies are not able to move or weather the inevitable challenges. So I mean, with your, just to kind of nudge your question a little bit, what I typically look for is in helping entrepreneurs is how can we get you a good deck of equity that will allow you to weather the invariable challenges. And I think that equity bit is the most important bit as far as I'm concerned, because even to get from a project development level, you could spend easily for projects in this industry, $5, $10, $20 million just getting that project to FID. And a lot of projects died within that period. And we also know that it's been extremely difficult to get equity investments in Nigerian companies. So my conversation is really, how do we strengthen that equity base? How can the future watersmiths, the future windows, the future setbacks, how can they get that oxygen? And I think that's a conversation I would like to kind of go a little bit deeper into, because if we're able to crack that nut, then you basically, in another 5 to 10 years, we will have multiples of this sort of Nigerian energy champions. Thank you.
Okay, so that you don't lose your thoughts, can you just give me 2 more minutes on that?
Okay.
And now go to other so
All right, great. Thank
tap
you.
on it.
So, in my own view, we have a lot of things that are already within our domain. Honestly, we probably are not doing, we are probably not optimizing it as much as we can. We've all seen the successes of the DFIs, the AFREXIMs, the AFCs, the sovereign wealth funds, and a lot of African DFIs. We've seen that for every dollar that you, or naira, by that token, that you invest as equity into a DFI, as an example, right? You probably can leverage that 8 to 10 times. So to give you what we're doing here, you put in $100 million into like an AFREXIM. AFREXIM can basically raise essentially about $1 billion. But it also means that AFREXIM can participate 10% in other projects. Then you can basically support essentially $10 million of projects. So you probably need about, of course, not one AFREXIM, but you need a whole bunch of AFREXIMs as an example. I just use AFREXIM as an example, but this is prevalent across the way. By the way, AFREXIM's total capital investment, the equity that's come through, is actually less than 1.5 billion. They are doing $40 billion of assets being deployed or loans being deployed. So I think that for me is one, but how do we even crack this? Look at in our pension right now. Our pension is about 22 trillion naira under assets. There's a space there for private equity of up to 5%. Guess how much is in there today? Less than 0.5%. No, 0.5%. So it tells you that there are things that we can do. Of course, there are things to resolve in there, but in my own belief, if you can crack some of these nuts and get some of that equity in, for me, that would actually be better for us longer term as a country. Now, I know pension funds typically are a little bit more conservative, but what is the point in earning 20-25% in your pension fund, right? And then when you retire at 70, you still have no utility. You still have to go and fetch your own water or build your own utility. So for me, I feel that we need to take that pain today. Even if it's 1%, if you lose 1%, and it's not possible for you to lose 1%, if you lose 1% of your portfolio for a better future, I think it's worthwhile doing this. Right. There are a couple of examples.
I'm going to open a tech class for you after this quick session. Let me come to Ali. I mean, what finance models can be out there? We see a lot of opportunities right now when the international communities or financing communities or funds want to look in this direction. What are the kind of risks they see? What kind of spectacles do they wear? What are the financing models that you may be able to accentuate here that we can take out freely from this conference?
Well, thank you very much. I think since Monday, various speakers have spoken about some of the things that I was going to talk about. But they say repetition is more than retention. So there's something new that I'm going to say here that you all know already. There are 5 areas or 5 models that I think can be looked at when we talk about that divestment by the majors out of Nigeria, so that local companies can take over those assets, or you can have IOCs as partners. We talk about joint ventures and partnerships. That's a way to take over the asset at some level of finance. Then there's production sharing agreements, and there's asset-backed financing, which Olumide was just mentioned, the assets of the company to raise finance. And then there are green bonds. Green bonds are specifically targeted towards environmentally conscious investment, which attracts what they call them ESG funds, those who look for sustainable investments. I'm going to talk about the last one, is one that I think I haven't heard anybody talk about here, and I think it's something that's worth looking at, which is crowdfunding. And I'll explain why that is something that may need to be considered. The African diaspora sends remittances back to the African continent, well in excess of 90 billion every year. That's way more than what they get from foreign direct investment and aid. Besides, Trump has blown away the aid part. So I think if the African nations would sit back and study that very carefully, Nigeria alone, out of that 90 to 100 billion that comes in from the diaspora, African diaspora, Nigeria accounts for 20 billion. The second is Egypt with about 8 to 10 billion, and then Kenya 3 to 4 billion. So Nigeria has the lion's share of that. What I'm going to propose is that with the new or the proposed African Energy Bank, we can leverage that, can piggyback on that to devise funds specifically targeting at the diaspora. I know I have a lot of my friends in the United States, because I live in the United States, I don't live here. They keep asking me questions, because they say, you're the Wall Street guy, how can we invest in Africa? But they're all scared. Everybody's scared because of all the bad news they hear, the risks. So I think when you look at crowdfunding, what does it do? Crowdfunding democratizes, access to investments into the oil and gas for the average Joe. So ordinarily, people who are able to invest, they are wealthy, but they don't have enough wealth for them to be able to go and participate directly in the oil and gas business. So by creating platforms, through the African Energy Bank or the Afro-Exim, or in collaboration with the Sovereign Wealth Fund, that would open up a floodgate of investment. But you must have use cases. You must have use cases. Proceed carefully, right? So my suggestion is, let's look at that angle and try to tap into that. And the United States adopted this approach with startup companies. Traditionally, the ordinary guy on the street couldn't invest in startup, new technology startup, by biotechnology and all that. So you couldn't invest in them because of the high risk. So in 2012, Obama created the act, which now opened it up. You have to apply as...
I'm thinking of something. I know that by the time we're ready for photo sessions, a lot of people are going to crowd you to sit you down and ask you to basically teach them, when is your flight? So don't change it. And so you can have, because of our time, I'm trying to compress all of this. Let's come to a practical postal chart here. And that's one day. Yeah, we bragged a bit about 2014, 2024. Is it targeted? Is this something about those years? ConocoPhillips first, and now AGI. How are you able to structure this kind of business, let me use that word, and seal that very mega deal? Was there some patting on the back? Was there some concession? Or But what were the utensils you used in building and structuring this to the point where you're now moving away from oil, which you're known for, and also investing heavily in gas? Share some of this, please.
Thanks for that. I think the two deals specifically were done in two extremely different financing environments. If you remember, we had the oil peak in 2012, where we were seeing oil was $100 a barrel. The financing market and everyone that understood at least, and did it to some degree, oil and gas, was ready to finance you. So our first deal was really wrapped around, you do need some element of reserve-based lending that you sort of anchor everything else on. But when you look at that basket of reserve-based lending, we had 10 different international banks, right, across the globe. Of course, there was the equity piece, which was 50% of the total cost of the acquisition. But in that environment, you were able to structure a very simple RBL with your equity next to it, get into the asset, and over time refinance that RBL, right? Okay, and wait for your equity participants to get paid after the debt gets paid out. I fast forward 10 years, and in that 10 years we've had the Paris Accord come to life. We've had COP20, how many now? 26, 27, 28, 29. We've got the Green Movement. We've got BlackRock pulled $40 billion out of our investment. We have every single international bank that was hitherto in Africa pulled out of Africa. There was only one bank financing oil and gas fields, and that was Afreximbank. In fact, on the continent, there was really one bank doing a lot of the financing for strategic countries and key business endeavors within those countries, and that was Afreximbank. Very different ballgame. This time, you had one person you needed to make a case for. And in truth, that case was being reviewed across other segments of the economy, other sectors, and other businesses. So, Olu spoke about constants, issues around surface challenges, regulation, policy, infractions, all of those things. And I can say that the anchor for either of those reasons will really the structure of your entity. How well you're able to demonstrate that you weren't going to lose investors' money, i.e. by being able to do the work you set out to do. How well you're able to demonstrate the strength of your, not just corporate governance, but your ability to evolve the company to the targets set by your investors. And how easily you could transition from being what you were before to what you have to be.
You proved all that? You proved all that.
You let me tell the story, or you tell the story. How well you can prove to the investors that you were walking the right path. Although in the first deal, in the first 2 years, we paid down half the amount we borrowed because we saw oil take a huge dive, but fortunately for us, we were hedged. And once we hedged, we had a huge payout. We paid out literally 50%. 2 years later, we liquidated a significant amount of the first RBL. So it tells you that in preparing, there are a lot of things you can do to hedge some of the exposures that typically would erode value in the event that the negative seasons come. On the issues about the constants, we needed the PIA to come to life, and we've all been fortunate that that has happened. We certainly needed a lot more attention paid to security. It is not our job from this panel to secure assets. It is our job to do the subsurface work and produce the assets. So most of us now spend a significant amount of our time as security consultants, but we're glad now that the government has stepped up and we're seeing a lot more effort on those surface issues. The final thing I'll talk about is the organization to do all of this. We are moving post this acquisition into a world of significant uptick in activity in the industry. Today, it's on record that NEPRC has a potential 90-rig acceleration over the next couple of years. So between ourselves, Renaissance, and all the other people drilling, we have 39 rigs in the country, and chances are we will be bringing another 40. Who manages that? Where are the service companies that are going to support it? Where are the people going to do the work? Where's the organization that's going to drive that development? And when I say organization, I don't mean corporate entities. I mean the petrophysicists, the geologists. Where are those people? Before now, the IOC's trained a significant amount of those people, and we've all taken them. They're sitting there. What's next for us? So these are the new challenges I see, and I'll stop there.
Okay, quickly. Dako wants to be Alex. Alex wants to be Femi. Femi, what does it take to be you?
Thanks, Odo.
In terms of these opportunities.
Yes, thanks. The operating in the deep water space has a lot of challenges, and the IOCs have that capability at this point. Some of the challenges, I'm going to classify them in 3 categories. We've got what I call the below ground risks, which relate to access and acquisition of those hydrocarbons, those molecules. Then we have the field risks, which relate to developing that and potentially commercializing it. And then we have the above ground risks, which relates to the investment climate. And that's probably one of the most important, because Nigeria is a super basin with world-class beneath ground assets. But the challenge is bringing that and converting it to cash. So it's in the below ground, it requires a lot of technology, experience, and extremely capital intensive. When my colleagues here on the panel were talking about tens of millions of dollars, one exploration well could easily cost between $100 to $150 million. And it could be dry. And the company goes belly up, So the waters are deep, and the pockets of the investors have to be deep.
Dako, hold your thoughts. I'm going to come to the finance man quickly. The 2 finance people here are going to speak quickly on the risk while Dako is rounding up on that. They're ready to speak about the kind of risk and how to de-risk those risks and grow more deeper pockets. I hope he's not bragging about deep pockets, but Dako, go ahead. No. Femi, Femi, please go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, I wanted you to conclude on that thought.
Okay, great.
On deep.
Yeah, I won't dig too deep. So I talked about the challenges with the below ground risks. Let me just talk briefly about developing the assets. It requires being able to assess the strategy to bring out those molecules, being able to schedule, being able to manage contractors. That's very key. And then above ground, we need the right enabling environment, the right fiscal certainty, consistency. This is the kind of thing that attracts international capital. This is the kind of thing that attracts equity. And we're talking about, in the deep water, the projects range in the range of like 5 to 10 to $15 billion. So really, it's not that easy to raise that kind of money through debt markets, through crowdfunding. You need people with very deep pockets. That's why Ozumba is here.
Are you scared about what he said?
Not at all. Not in any way. No, the thing is, it's a matter of time. Because if you look at where we are today in terms of what the independent Nigerian entities are now being taking over the onshore and shallow water space. We will get there. We'll get to the deep at some point. It's
Please encourage him, please.
the task ahead of us as independent force of all is we have to give justice to the onshore and shallow water space that is now being handed over to us. And I can tell you, on behalf of IPPG members and independent Alex and the rest, we will do justice to it and we'll do the best to those assets. So, if you allow me to talk about, as you said, what are the attributes that made us succeed, that's in the past. I will sort of want to talk about where we're going to.
Absolutely. If you do that in 60 seconds.
Because Africa we produce crude, but we still import a lot of refined products. The demand and supply dynamics today is very clear. There's population growth, there's economic development, there's industrialization going on, there's the growth of the middle class. So the demand is there for high quality refined products across Africa. We also have Walter Smith, and of course the other members of IPPG that have refineries, modular refineries. It's about positioning ourselves. First of all, to meet the demand requirements in country, and then extend our footprint to other parts of Africa, starting from Sub-Saharan Africa. Thank you.
So how does these three guys, how do you help these three guys if they were potential? That's where I'm coming to the finance guys. You can do that in 3 seconds, 1 minute each. Olu and Ali. Yes, you can
So, mine's simple businesses. We actually
especially around the risk area.
we actually need these guys that are successful already now to help all of us. Now, we have situations where every single IOC has a financing group, whether it's GA Capital or whatnot. What we need, as an example, as part of this ecosystem, we need all of these independent Nigerian companies come in and put in about maybe $10-20 million or naira and support a fund that can now support the services sector. Now, you guys have the ability to do it because you are paying, it's actually even positive for you at the end of the day. When you're able to do so, government can also enable it, maybe give you some deductions in your tax breaks, right? For every dollar that you put in there, maybe you appreciate it over 4 or 5 years. You're already doing the same thing to any, because government has come to you guys, build power plants, all that kind of stuff, and allow you to deduct it from your into your cost, into your capital pool. So all around, do some of these things so that way you can now nurture the new children, the growing, the next generation of all of that stuff.
Ali, allow me to put a word to say, I've heard so much about, and it's a contemplation for me and an extension, the African Energy Bank. It seems like we can all just leave this room, go in there, put in our papers and get money out. Is that going to help?
We had a conversation about the African Energy Bank. We have a different views on it. Next time I'm going to sit next to you, Olu, so that you can chime in to give me the whole time to speak. Let me just talk about the risks. I'm going to concentrate on the risk element because I'm an investor. I'm not in the oil business, but I like to invest where I'm going to make money. I'm going to talk about just two because we have limited time. Political and regulatory risk. That is a big one. Policy discordancy discourages investment. If your policies are inconsistent or you enact policies and you don't implement them, that is a red flag to investors. So the way to mitigate about regulatory risks and all that is, investors often would look for political and economic risk insurance. That is for IOCs coming to foreign countries. The other one is infrastructural issues, and I think various speakers have spoken about that. The way to go about that is to collaborate, and I was happy to hear that so many companies are collaborating to build pipelines and roads and all that kind of stuff. So those are the two issues from the point of view of investors that gives us worry. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for my panelists. And Richmond, thank you for the extra minute. And just to say that after this, all of the modalities, please shake hands because this could become this could become that, and that can become greater. Please just make friends more. Thank you very much for being a wonderful audience. Richmond, thank you.